My name is Victor Santoyo. I'm a senior account executive for Security Website Security. My day-to-day includes helping agencies and enterprises identify a website security solution. We do a lot of website detection, protection, and incident response in the event of an issue. The keys to writing an effective email really lie in the subject being very clear about who you are and what the subject is. So for example, with me, I'll incorporate, this is a security proposal about this. You don't want to create something that's like trying to grab your attention with a bunch of exclamation marks or, hey, have you seen this? It also makes it easy for that person to search us in their inbox, right? So I'm hitting where I'm from, what it is, and the scope of what that item is, right? So whether it's interest, a quote, request, whatever that is, just something that kind of gets to the bones of exactly what the topic is. Similarly, it's time. How much time do they have to parse through, even kind of remember a conversation they might have had 2 months ago, because projects get delayed, they're busy, it happens. And sometimes these developers double as a business owner, right? They're both. So they even have less time. So trying to avoid essentially sending out a thesis, right? If I get a wall of text within the body of an email, that's usually, even for me, something like, okay, I might have to really focus in on this. And so your mind kind of checks out, right? Or you try to punt it for the next fast task. I try to keep the email short. If they ask for a clarification later, that's fine, actually, because then that continues engagement. Almost treat it chat-like. Making sure that they understand one important phase of that subject before moving on to the next. Again, you're creating engagement, or at least forcing engagement. Do you understand? Get a response back? Yes. Great. That means they received, viewed, and read my email. So now the next time I do it the same way, I should get a similar response within a similar time frame, right? So it may be creating a need for them to respond back to know that they've read your email, right? In some cases. So that's helpful. And of course, making sure that the jargon, especially within a short email, is aligned with the person you're speaking with, right? So making sure that you know how much familiarity they have with the topic you're discussing will help in either you watering down your language, or maybe you can afford to be a little more, let's say, proficient, right? To show that you know what you're talking about. But you don't want to do it just to do it. Then it goes over their heads and it loses the focus of that topic. Best thing to always do, especially when it comes to, let's say, technical jargon, when you're talking about web development, is making sure you're reviewing it yourself and passing it through someone else to make sure that they're understanding everything in that email. Oftentimes, if you're leveraging a tool like, let's say, Gmail for your inbox, Gmail's evolved really well over the years in highlighting grammatical and spelling mistakes. But if you're using a different platform for that, pass it through a spell check tool, whether it's online or Word. I myself use Gmail. I just think the correction identification is best through them. And oftentimes they'll make suggestions that I wouldn't have thought of otherwise. Common mistakes I see are often things like, relative to where you are in your industry, is abbreviations, right? Assuming that someone knows what an abbreviated phrase is for you may not be someone they're familiar with, even though you might be in similar fields. So always making sure at least you are explaining out what that phrase is, and then you can abbreviate it later. That's one mistake. Another is often just making sure that you're always keeping focus on their specific issue. Like, as a service, we offer all kinds of stuff, right? And I could go on and on and on about every little thing we do. But if they're coming to us specifically, let's say, because they're infected, so meaning they need to have their website cleaned, let's focus on the one thing first. And then we can tackle the stuff later after there's like either resolution or an understanding. But those are often the biggest mistakes I often see. You just overwhelm the person. They don't know if we understood them, and then that causes a disconnect unnecessarily. One of the ways you can improve on avoiding some of these common mistakes, and generally just always making sure you're doing your best to convey a message in an email, is peer review. Talking to others on your team, or maybe across another team, about who's getting a lot of engagement from clients or prospects, let's say, and what is it that they're doing that maybe you're not? Or at the very least, checking with them, hey, look, this is how I'm structuring my emails. I'm not getting a lot of engagement, and seeing how others are doing the same function, right? The same job. So to write an effective email, the best thing to always keep in mind is that the subject line should always be direct. It should always attack the exact topic that you're looking at. Don't try to add any more fluff than it needs. The topic, the body of the email itself should be as short as possible, and don't include any information beyond what the ask is. If there's a request for that information later, that's fine, because that way you're creating engagements. And that engagement can be tracked through, let's say, a tool like HubSpot that'll see what the open and views are on your email, and you can see how often they're seeing it, how many times they're opening it on a weekly basis. It'll be good because that means what you have sent over is valuable. And beyond that, of course, when you incorporate your signature across these emails, make sure they're consistent and include only, let's say, reply to or contact information that is reliable. If you have contact information like a phone number that you're never by, don't include it, because people will try, to contact you through those means. But again, making sure that you're always concise and clear, and using language that that the person receiving the email is familiar with is always going to be best, because you don't want to lose focus or confuse anyone with anything you sent over.